There's a division right here at the edge of it. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jai Mr. Pad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON BBD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Parudikacharya Ashtotar Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Sri Isopanisad Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. How's that verse coming, Ananda? There it is. Just see it right in time. Perfect. A little small. Hold on. I got a question for you. Don't forget it. It's good. Hold on. I got a question for you right now. Yeah, wasn't the question. Can you get the clock and a water? There should be a cup back. Is there a cup back there? There may not be any water in it. Check if there's water and bring the clock. Thank you. And you can remember next time, maybe, the clock and the water and the table. Okay. All righty. Oh yeah, before I begin, I wanted to mention, because for our guests, you may be wondering why we changed the translation that we recite. You may have noticed. So, in the back, yeah, you can get some Maha water from, they have it probably on the counter there. 2 minutes of history for the songbook. That comes from the songbook. So that originally was published in 1973, early on. And I was there in Henry Street when it came out, and the translations were done by Achyutananda Prabhu, who knew Bengali somewhat. And there was some Sanskrit he didn't know very well. But Prabhupada liked it. It was the first songbook. But in 77, Jai Sachinandan, who had learned Bengali and Sanskrit better, he wrote to Prabhupada, asked if he could redo the translations, which he did. And that's what we have in our regular songbook. But by that time, devotees had been singing the Guru Puja song for years, for 4 or 5 years, 4 years. And so we had many of them memorized the translation in that old songbook. And so that was kind of hardwired in, and so that's the one we sing. But if you look at the translation in the new songbook, there are certain adjustments that reveal more of what Narottam Das Thakur was talking about. But it's an okay translation, so we just say it. But there's one thing that we do. The lotus feet of our spiritual master, the only way we can take pure devotional service. I bow down to those lotus feet with great awe and reverence. And as the old say, my only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth, right? We say that. But is that really true? I mean, if that's true, then we're pure devotees. That's not what Narottam wrote, and that's not what the new translation says. And it certainly wasn't. Prabhupada didn't give any translations. So it's not changing Prabhupada's words, it's changing the songbook. So what we do is a slight adjustment. May my only wish be to have my consciousness pure. Otherwise you sit in front of the deities and you're saying something that's not true. And you see what I'm saying? Which is not good. You should never lie before the deities. So that's why that's there, if you're wondering why is it. Okay, that being done. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 30th day of December 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Sri Isopanisad, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we're still in Mantra 10. We did part of this already, and we're going to finish the purport today. Anyade bahu vidyaya nyadahu avidyaya iti shushmadhiranam yenastan vijachakshire. Anyade bahu vidyaya nyadahur avidyaya iti shushmadhiranam yenastan vijachakshire. Anyade bahu vidyaya nyadahur avidyaya iti shushmadhiranam yenastan vijachakshire. Parameshwar. Anyade bahu vidyaya nyadahur avidyaya iti shushmadhiranam yenastan vijachakshire. Anyade bahu vidyaya nyadahur avidyaya iti shushmadhiranam yenastan vijachakshire. Damodar. Anyade bahu vidyaya nyadahur avidyaya iti shushmadhiranam yenastan vijachakshire. Darshan, you want to try it? Anyade bahu vidyaya Nyadahur avidyaya Dhiranam Iti shushma dhiranam Yenastan vidyachakshri. Thank you. No? Yes? Go ahead, go ahead. Yes. Everything's pronounced. Anyade bahu vidyaya. Anyade bahu vidyaya. Nyadahur avidyaya. Iti shushmadhiranam. Yenastan vidyachakshide. Very good. Anyade bahu vidyaya. Nyadahur avidyaya. Iti shushmadhiranam. Yenaschan vidyachakshide. So we already read these synonyms. So I'm just going to read the translation and go to the place in the purport where we're at. Translation. Whoops. Translation. The wise have explained that one result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and that a different result is obtained from the culture of nescience. Now, Srila Prabhupada then quotes from the Bhagavad Gita in the purport, chapter 13, text 8 to 12, which is a nice summary of what real knowledge consists of, which I won't read all of these. But in the purport, Prabhupada is talking about now how nationalism and socialism and so forth are not really based on knowledge. Nationalism has developed in different parts of the world due to the cultivation of nescience, or ignorance, by the general people. No one considers that this tiny earth is just a lump of matter floating in immeasurable space, along with many other lumps. In comparison to the vastness of space, these material lumps are like dust particles in the air. Because God has kindly made these lumps of matter complete in themselves, they are perfectly equipped with all necessities for floating in space. The drivers of our spaceships may be very proud of their achievements, but they do not consider the supreme driver of these greater, more gigantic spaceships called planets. There are innumerable suns and innumerable planetary systems also. As infinitesimal parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, we small creatures are trying to dominate these unlimited planets. Thus we take repeated birth and death and are generally frustrated by old age and disease. The span of human life is scheduled for about 100 years, although it is gradually decreasing down to 20 or 30 years. Thanks to the culture of nescience, befooled men have created their own nations within these planets in order to grasp sense enjoyment more effectively for these few years. Such foolish people draw up various plans to render national demarcations perfectly, a task that is totally impossible. Yet for this purpose, each and every nation has become a source of anxiety for others. More than 50% of a nation's energy is devoted to defense measures and thus spoiled. No one cares for the cultivation of real knowledge, yet people are falsely proud of being advanced in both material and spiritual knowledge. Sri Isopanisad warns us of this faulty type of education in the Bhagavad Gita, and the Bhagavad Gita gives instructions as to the development of real knowledge. This mantra states that the instructions of vidya, knowledge, must be acquired from a dhira. A dhira is one who is not disturbed by material illusion. No one can be undisturbed unless he is perfectly spiritually realized, at which time one neither hankers nor laments for anything. A dhira realizes that the material body and mind he has acquired by chance through material association are but foreign elements. Therefore, he simply makes the best use of a bad bargain. The material body and mind are bad bargains for the spiritual living entity. The living entity has actual functions in the living spiritual world. But this material world is dead. As long as the living spiritual sparks manipulate the dead lumps of matter, the dead world appears to be a living world. Actually, it is the living souls, the parts and parcels of the supreme living being, who move this world. The dhiras have come to know all these facts by hearing them from superior authorities, and have realized this knowledge by following the regulative principles. To follow the regulative principles, one must take shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. The transcendental message and regulative principles come down from the spiritual master to the disciple. Such knowledge does not come in the hazardous way of nescient education. One can become a dhira only by submissively hearing from a bona fide spiritual master. Arjuna, for example, became a dhira by submissively hearing from Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead himself. Thus the perfect disciple must be like Arjuna, and the spiritual master must be as good as the Lord himself. This is the process of learning vidya, knowledge, from the dhira, the undisturbed. An adhira, one who has not undergone the training of a dhira, cannot be an instructive leader. Modern politicians who pose themselves as dhiras are actually adhiras, and one cannot expect perfect knowledge from them. They are simply busy seeing to their own remuneration in dollars and cents. How then can they lead the mass of people to the right path of self-realization? Thus one must hear submissively from a dhira in order to attain actual education. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Salakaya Chakshurun Midatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. Thank you. Hold on. Okay. Thank you, sir. Well, I'm wearing a weighty garland, so everything I say must be pretty weighty now, otherwise it's not proper. So this is, it's interesting because I was just thinking as I was saying that prayer that we say all the time before the class, Om Jnana Timirandasya, is perfectly appropriate for this particular verse, because it talks about how we've come from ignorance to knowledge. And all of us are born in darkness. The word Timirandasya really means blinded by darkness. And certainly, you know, as a child, you don't know anything, and you're depending completely on your parents and your other teachers to enlighten you just about, you know, everything. So that's obvious. But more pertinent is that even when you grow up and you have an education, you may have a very nice education from university, you're still in darkness about essential knowledge that we need to navigate out of this bondage of the material world. So much of Srila Prabhupada's preaching is just trying to convince people that this world is not our home, it's a place of trouble, birth, old age, disease, and death, and that we need to understand the real nature of things is that we are eternal beings. We've had many lives before, and we're going to have another life. And our destiny is in our hands. What you do, how the consciousness you cultivate is going to determine what your next birth is going to be. And if you just take it as it comes from this world, you're practically sure to have a subhuman life in your next life. In this society, it's impossible to avoid grievous sin if you just act on the basis of your senses. So it's the most essential object or thing that we should strive for in this world is a reliable source of knowledge, full knowledge, which means not only material knowledge but transcendental knowledge, by which we can get out of this material world, which is not easy. So that's what this verse in purport all about. Very starkly, this mantra of the Isopanisad says, one result is wise of explained. One result is derived from the culture of knowledge, and different result obtained from the culture of nescience. So one may be saying, well, that's not very profound. I mean, that's why we have education. But the real question is, the key word here is really dhiranam. Dhiranam, what is the source of that knowledge that's real knowledge? Because more dangerous than ignorance is having what you think is knowledge that really is wrong. You know, that's a motto. I thought Mark Twain said it, but it was someone else said it. I looked it up recently. Is that it's not as much what we don't know that hurts us, although that can be serious, but it's the things that we think we know are true that are actually false. You see, that's the problem. And just look at the world today. Prabhupada wrote this book in India. And he was, you know, this is, it's the 50s and maybe the early 60s. And India and the world had just gone through World War II. India had just been, thrown off the British yoke. They had independence. He was very much, and Prabhupada had been involved in Mahatma Gandhi's movement. So he was very politically in tune to the society. And actually, when you read the Bhagavatam and you read the Bhagavad Gita, you realize that's what it's all about. The Bhagavad Gita is spoken, or the substratum, if you will, of the Bhagavad Gita, the context, is this war that's going to decide the fate of the earth. And Krishna was deeply involved in, first of all, trying to avoid the war, and then arranging for it to happen so that Yudhishthira, who was Dharma personified, would be back on the throne and people would prosper. Because he does that. When things get too adharmic, yada yada hi dharmasya glana bhavati bhara abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajami. He says right in the 4th chapter, when adharma becomes ascendant and dharma has become confused, the people are suffering, I manifest myself. That's what the word, I manifest myself. And for the sake of protecting the devotees and annihilating the miscreants and reestablishing dharma. So dharma is something that exists only in the material world. In the spiritual world, there's no dharma. Dharma is something a discipline that helps you get from the material world to the spiritual world. That's explained right at the beginning of Bhagavatam. 2nd verse, Dharma projita kaitavotra. This book is going to deal with real dharma, and it kicks out all cheating religion, cheating dharma. Because like anything else good and valuable, there can also be people want it, they're ready to buy it, or ready to dedicate themselves to it. And therefore, there are always those who are ready to present something that looks like the real thing that really isn't it. You know what I mean? And that's called kaitava dharma, cheating religion. Materially motivated religion. Anyone who, I haven't watched TV in a million years, but I know that to this day, there are these people who pretend to be pastors, they become good speakers and charismatics, and they convince people to send in money to get this magic, whatever it is, some napkin or something, that they can pray on because, to be relieved of their disease or something like that, They make millions of dollars on this. Just in the name of religion, in the name of Jesus or something, they're cheating people out of millions of dollars. And this is legal in America because of freedom of religion. And they're tax-free, That's obvious cheating religion. But even any religion, any dharma that has some material motivation, and even to the point of the part of the Vedas that deal with that, karma kanda, Krishna said right at the beginning of Gita in the 2nd chapter, he says, Yamimam pushpitam vacham pavadam javipashchata. Those who are avipashchata, who are not wise, who are not dhira, as explained here, they say that those flowery words in the Karma Kanda section, which induce you to practice all these sacrifices and disciplines and charity and mantras to go to the heavenly planets where you can really enjoy, said this is all cheating. This is not going to help you. This is what you need is the dharma that Krishna gives in the Bhagavad Gita and that the Bhagavatam gives. And what is that? That which evokes your attraction for Krishna, for your love for Krishna. That's right there. And what does that love mean? It means that you're always focusing on what will please God, what will please Krishna. That's your desire. Even if it causes you external suffering. That's where austerity comes in. The first thing you learn when you come to Krishna consciousness, if you want to be serious, you have to undergo some austerities. You have to give up some things that you might be attached to, and you have to take on some things that you're not so attached to. Getting up really early, like 3 hours before dawn, and taking a cold shower. Who's spontaneously attracted to that? Especially in this society. Nobody. It's an austerity, right? So, the more that you can accept those things, both negative and positive, the quicker that you'll progress on the path. So that's exactly what real dharma is all about. It says, okay, you really want to get out of this material world? That's the basic principle of what dharma is about. Then here's what you have to do. Perhaps the most difficult thing is to give up a lot of your illusions about what you think, the good is. What is good in this world? Obviously, that which is going to please my senses. People don't even think twice. I have a roof over my head. I have a nice family. I have a good job. cars, and got the internet, got to have the internet, phone, it's the whole list. Then that's good. Whatever will further that, But that's all illusion. That's all illusion. I was just beginning to listen to Prabhupada's lectures. I go round and around, second canto, at the beginning of the second canto. The the Bhagavatam kind of begins again. The whole first canto, there's a lot of very important instruction. But it's really kind of an introduction to the book. How it came to be, how Parikshit was cursed, and sat down by the bank, and Shukadev came, and what Vyasadeva told, what Narada told Vyasadeva in the 5th chapter to enliven him because he was disappointed. He'd written all these books, including the Mahabharata, which has the Bhagavad Gita in it. He wrote all the Vedas, he wrote all the other Puranas, he wrote the Vedanta Sutra, he wrote the Mahabharata, and yet he was feeling dissatisfied. Something was missing, And he guessed what it was, and Narada, his spiritual master, comes down and explains to him. And really, when you look at it in context, and you listen to Prabhupada's lectures on this section of Bhagavatam, the first thing he tells him, after the introductory verses, Na yadvachas chitta padang hare yasho jagat pavitram pagunita karachit. You've written all these literatures, but there's hardly anything directly about Krishna, about the devotional service. There's all this karma kanda section of the Vedas and Vedanta, which is all very well and good and essential, but it's all philosophy. What about it's just like a pilgrimage for crows. Now that literature, which doesn't maybe very nicely composed, but has nothing to do with Krishna, that's where the garbage seekers go, garbage pickers go. Pretty heavy words. Vyasadeva has just finished. He wrote the Mahabharata, which contains the Gita, but he's speaking as strongly because the Guru does that. The first words they speak, like even Krishna with Arjuna says, you're speaking learned words as if you were a pundit, but pundits don't talk about that. Take that so seriously. The body, he's all on the body concept, So that's just to get your attention, but it's for real. And then so at the very end of the first canto, Parikshit has sat down by the Ganges or Yamuna, and he's waiting. And Shukadev comes and sits there. He's the supreme learned scholar, devotee, and very young. And he sits there amongst all these great sages. Narada is there, Vyasa is there. Everyone's listening. And so then he asks questions, and the question is, now I have 7 days to live. That's the whole point. He knew that he was going to die in 7 days. So what should I do? What should I listen to? What should I hear? What should I do with my mind? And so the beginning of the second canto gives like a full lesson in about 6 verses. If you just follow that, you go back to Godhead. So he first thing he does is praise the question. Very nice question. Those who ask the question, those who answer the question, and those who listen in, everyone benefits from the answer to that question. What should one do? Because we're all at the verge of death. We may think we have so much time, but what is even 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years compared to millions of years we've had already living? So that's the urgency. Time is going. Every moment counts. So, but then he says, on the other side, because this often happens, back and forth, Shota vyadini rajana nirang santi sahasrasha apushitam atma tattvam griheshu grihamedinam. He says, people who are not eager for self-realization, they have millions of subject matters for hearing. He says thousands, but it's untold millions. They have no vision of the real truth of the soul. They're not interested. That's not what, that even doesn't cross their mind. Griheshu grihamedinam. Grihamedinam means materialistic householders. In other words, ordinary karmis we used to call. So what do? Then he describes in a few words the essence of material life. He said, what do they do with their days and nights? Nidya hriyati naktam hivayena cha bhavayak divachate heyarajan kutumba baranenava. At night they sleep, and if they can, they sleep too much. Just like you find the quietest day of the year, although actually New Year's Day is also very quiet. Because everybody was up late, and they all sleep in. It's super quiet. And this Christmas was like that too, because all partying, So sleeping as much as possible. The weekend comes. I mean, I used to, have a 9 to 5. And Saturday, thank God it's Friday, you can sleep in, we can party at night and sleep in until noon, right? So that's the first word, nidrya, riyate naktam. Sleeping too much, taking up the night. Or sex life, that's another thing goes on at night. Vibhaya jabhavya. And then what happens at day? Running, where's money, where's money, where's money? And then on the weekend, shopping. Although that word isn't used in the Bhagavatam, but that's what he says, kudumba buddhanenava. In order to support the kutumba, the family, and family is extended family, the wife, the children, everybody else. In other words, running to make money, trying to enjoy sleep, sex life, and that's basically it. And then, so now, this, everyone knows there's danger in this world. That's the other part of it, fearing. Eating, sleeping, mating, fearing. So you have to have soldiers. You have to have an army to protect you. So that's the next verse. He says, how's it start? I forget. There are these fallible soldiers to protect you. Deha patta karatradi shatma saineshva satvapi tesham pramatto nidanam pashinapina pashyati. Now the word pramatta is here in this word. It means it's completely mad. In other words, totally illusioned, but everyone else is totally illusioned in the same way, so it seems to be the ordinary thing. So we have these soldiers to help us against the material energy, which is always threatening in various ways. First is a strong body, healthy body, everyone knows, deha. And then your children, your extended family, including wife, children, etc. Kalatra adishu, deha patta kalatra atma saineshu. These are your soldiers to protect yourself. The atma meaning the body, mind, soul, everything. But they're asatsu, they're fallible. In other words, they can protect you. They're also human beings, fallible little human beings, But you try to take shelter of them because that's all you know. So, now here's where it gets interesting. Tesham pramatto nidanam pashyan. Even though one sees by experience, you don't have to live in the world very long to know that people die, that things fail, accidents happen, you go bankrupt, in other words, your soldiers, the people who are going to protect you, are also in danger. So, nidanam means destroyed. But even though seeing, you don't see. This is a very, pasyanapina pashyati. This is kind of a little Sanskrit idiom. We see in front of our face something, but the meaning of it doesn't strike us. We see how this world is a world of destruction, birth, death, old age, and disease. But who's thinking about how to solve those problems? Nobody. Because no one has a solution. That's just life, Therefore, I got to have, the Defense Department, $1 trillion a year, and the health, so-called health insurance. That's my solution, for the disease, and to protect us, the whole land nationalism. We have this huge bloated military that just sucks up all the money. Is completely unnecessary. So, in other words, that need for protection, which we do have, is diverted, you see, because no one is getting real knowledge of how to actually solve the problem. So what is then what does Shukadev tell Pariksit? This is all a complete lesson in two more verses. So therefore, he says, I think it's right there that he says, Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari Shrotavyak Kirtitavyascha Smartavyak Chechitabayam. If you want fearlessness at the time of death, Abhayam. That the verse ends with this, Abhayam, which is the main problem here. Then here's what to do, O Bharata. He, as Arjuna is a Bharata, a descendant of the great king Bharat, so is, keep that. So is Pariksit. They're relatives, they're descendant. So when every word counts. When they invoke this, your lineage, they're saying, okay, here's why, here's why I'm answering the question in this way, and why you're in this situation, because you're of your qualities as being descendants of the great devotees and so forth. So what should you do? Here's the answer. Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Hari. Now these are 4 different descriptions of God, of Krishna. Sarvatma, the supreme soul, the super soul. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, full in 6 opposites. Ishvara, the Supreme Controller, and Hari, He who takes away all your suffering. You see? What should you do now with Him? Shrotavya. Just hear. Kirtitavya, and chant. And Smartavya, and remember. Those are the 3 basic principles of bhakti. Hearing, chanting, and remembering. These books that we're reading, these books that we're distributing, are simply recorded chanting of Prabhupada. There's sound vibration that people can get easily and take advantage of. Better to hear them, but if they read them, that's wonderful. So it's all hearing, chanting, remembering. If you want fearlessness at the time of death. And then he tops it all off with this essential verse, Etavan Sankhya Yogabhyam Swadharma Parinishthaya Janma Labhak Parakpungsam. Who can complete the verse? Ante Narayana Smriti. It's all there. He says, when you see a verse that, there's all of these little Sanskrit idioms. The word etavan, or etabaj, sometimes the ending may be different. This is a word that means, okay, now this is a really important verse, summing up a whole philosophy. So pay attention. There's a bunch of them. I took them out. I can share with you later. But here's the first one in the Bhagavatam. So here's the summary. Whatever you do in terms of your Sankhya, your analysis through philosophy, yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Swadharma, practicing nicely your duties in society, Parinishthaya, you're doing it very nicely. It'll be successful. Janma labhak, you will reach the goal of your birth. In other words, have a successful birth. Parakpungsam, the supreme goal, if you can remember Narayan or Krishna at the time of death. Ante, at the end, Narayana Smriti. QED. If that's all, if you finish, that's as far as you get in the Bhagavatam and you follow it, you'll be successful in life. There's all these little instructions. There's several in the first canto also. So, that's real knowledge. Who knew that? PhDs, you go through education, these things don't even come up. Prabhupada says he went to MIT, famous Massachusetts Institute of Technology. People come out of there and they go right into industry and make a lot of money. He went there to give a lecture. They invited him. He went to Boston, the temple there, and they arranged it. So he asked all these students, there were some students very interested, where is that course in this university that's teaching the difference between a dead body and a living body? And they appreciated that there wasn't any, and that it was important. That's the essential question. But no, so many, I went to University of Chicago, major university. I remember this experience. I audited, I just sort of sat in on a class, because I was into math, I did well in math, it was the first year. So I was watching, and they had these blackboards that you could slide and reveal more blackboard, So he's writing, and one of these big mathematical equations, have you ever seen, Couldn't understand one thing that he was writing. And he went on and on and on and on, And after maybe 15, 20 minutes, he asked some student to comment, is this right, is that right, what do you think, what's the next thing I should write? And I just, man, this is like a whole different universe of knowledge, and I never really got into that part of the math. But that's where people go. They go completely into a million different things, like he begins the second canto. They have millions of things to talk about, think about, understand, but it's all off the point. What about that knowledge, the knowledge we need, the essential knowledge for solving the problems of life? And that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur has this song, this kind of knowledge just makes you stupider. Because here's the point. You think you know, but you don't know what really counts. So Prabhupada really came to start an educational institution, And the thing is, it's knowledge that's confirmed by experience. This is why he was successful. He actually began with the chanting. It was only his 3 books, and of course himself speaking. But in order for the heart of the conditioned soul to be receptive to that knowledge, there needs to be some purification. And so we begin with the chanting, and it's a fact, the Second Avenue Temple, he was there for months and months. People would come, they'd come for the chanting, and of course later, soon they would come for the prasadam. But oftentimes after Prabhupada stopped the kirtan, after an hour, they would have hour-long kirtans, When's the last time we have an hour-long kirtan outside of Harinam? But that would be a nightly affair, and everyone's buzzing, But then, and many of them, though, he would start to speak, and half of the audience would get up and leave. Because they weren't able to break through their what they thought they knew, and that that's not what, it doesn't pertain to me. Of course it does. But if there were enough who were purified and submissive and took those words in and put them to, actually followed the process. The first thing is to also do personal chanting, stay with the chant, like that. So that's what it takes. Prabhupada came to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya, which is based on Bhagavatam. Lord Chaitanya, spread the words of Bhagavatam. The very last verse of Bhagavatam is about Harinam Sankirtan. Did you know that? Nama Sankirtananyasya Sarva Papa Panashanam Panamo Dukkha Shamanas Tandamama Harim Param. Nama Sankirtanam. That's the first words in the verse. I swear to God. This is important, whatever the last verse is. Nama Sankirtanam destroys all your sinful reactions. Sarva Papa Panashanam. And bowing down to Hari destroys, what does it say? Dukkha Shamanas, destroys your misery. One destroys your sin, which causes pain, and the other destroys the pain directly. I bow down to Hari, which bowing down destroys your misery. So that's a good sign and throughout Bhagavatam, there are so many injunctions for chanting the holy name. In this age, that is the way. If you don't chant, it's going to be very difficult to accept this knowledge, because it's all, beyond the senses. It's transcendental. You can't confirm it, by your, investigation, by sending knowledge. So that's what this verse is about. That if you cultivate real knowledge, you'll get one result. But if you cultivate avidya, which is ignorance, but goes by the name of knowledge, you get another result. And Prabhupada goes through this whole wonderful list of knowledge elements in the 13th chapter. And then he really gets into, criticizing modern civilization. Some materialistic politicians in spiritual guise decry the present system of civilization as satanic, but unfortunately do not care about the culture of real knowledge as is described in the Bhagavad Gita, thus they cannot change the satanic situation. So the idea is that it's easy to see that things are not right in this world, right? I mean, I like to use this, although I was told be careful because not everyone accepts the reality of human-caused or anthropogenic climate change. I mean, most people realize the climate is changing. Just go outside, I mean, you can just live in SanDiego. You don't have to be a scientist. You don't have to know anything. The climate has changed pretty rapidly in the last 30 years. All over the world, all these horrible storms. I mean, I read about India. They're running out of water, and Australia's getting too hot to live in. It's like 120 degrees in Sydney or something, which is way beyond what it's supposed to be. So all over the world, there's fires upstate. So it's changing. But the real question is, well, why is it changing? Is it just natural changing? We can't do anything about it. No, we're changing it. So let's accept for a minute, just theoretically, maybe all of you believe that, but just that is anthropogenic climate change. In other words, human beings are destroying the environment so that there won't be any ability to live, or 3 billion people will die in the next 30, 40 years because they can't find food and things. That's what the scientists are saying. So let's assume for a moment that is correct. So what's causing it? I mean, it's not a mystery. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, 16th chapter, Chibadam Nadakaste Dam Dwaram Nashanamana, there are 3 gates leading to hell. This hell that he just described, that all the demons get sent to. But this, that hell can be hellish spot. Lust, anger, and greed. Okay? So that greed aspect is obviously rampant. I mean, there shouldn't be any billionaires in the world. It's obscene. Grabbing all that money for themselves, not spending it on building temples or anything for good. It's just completely unnatural. It's an extreme example of greed, and it's like more and more billionaires made here and in India. India has more billionaires than America. How do you know that? So that's what's doing it. So now you have this movement, especially the young people who realize, hey, our future is being destroyed. We're 14 years old. Are we going to make it to 40? They're the ones who see the emergency. They're marching by the millions. But the old people are in the illusion that, well, okay, it may happen, but I'll be dead. So let's go on, let's keep partying. That's basically the idea. I mean, these billionaires, these guys, let's just take the ones who run the oil business. There are about probably 1,000 billionaires, or 100 millionaires who are involved in that. So their business has to be restricted. In other words, we can't keep burning all this fossil fuel. I'm just speaking, this is, as ordinary knowledge. And the world is, heating up. So it's exactly a macro example of what goes on individually. Think about it. Prabhupada is explaining, the books are explaining, you can't just try to consume and enjoy and expect to have a successful life. There may be some flickering pleasure there, but before long, if you just blow it out, your health will go, and you'll break the law, or you'll certainly break the natural laws, and then because you're not connecting at all with Krishna, you're performing sinful activity, you'll lose the human form of life. Go to the fifth canto, you'll suffer for what seems like, and it seems like totally real, for millions of years in hell, all so that you can enjoy a few flickering sense gratification. Prahlad Maharaj in his prayers, he's saying. In other words, it's the same thing on the macro level. You have these people who are supposedly very intelligent, but they're mad. They're infected with this greed, and it covers their knowledge, and they're destroying the earth. You see, the Prabhupada talks about nationalism. That is developed in different parts of the world due to cultivation of nescience by the general people. That's what's happening. I'm American. You guys stay out. You used to be able to send us your fault, But the whole country was built, the foundation was built on slavery and genocide of the Native Americans. And it's still there in the American spirit. That's the history. They deny that. I never learned that in grade school, did you? We murdered millions of the Native Americans, and we tormented and tortured millions of black Africans coming over here. It wasn't presented like that. I mean, you knew about it, but it was. So they try to cover it up, but that's the reality. So the whole thing is founded on this fallacy that we're in charge of this land, and we can enjoy it, and we can exploit it, and we can, and hand it off to our kids, and this is a successful life, and it's doomed. So what goes on the macro level is rooted in what goes on the micro level of each individuals. It's individuals, when added up, who are totally in nescience, who are, let's face it, asuras, described perfectly in the 16th chapter. So much money do I have today, and I'll have more tomorrow. And the real ruthless ones, I'll kill him and I'll make allies with him, and then in this way they build up some wealth for some time and then crash. Someone takes it over. This is what's going on. So all of this is based on deep ignorance, and so our mission is, first of all, to embrace this knowledge for ourselves and go through those changes in our own lives and lifestyles to live the real life whereby we can taste the actual spiritual pleasure of Krishna consciousness, which destroys the taste for material life. And you can see how self-destructive it is and how bankrupt it is. I like these little mottos that I make up. So the sense gratification means a little pleasure now, a lot of suffering. And spiritual life means a little suffering now, tapasya, and a whole lot of infinite, ever-expanding, eternal pleasure. So what's the good bargain? Where should you invest your energy and your intelligence? The fools and rascals who are in the mode of ignorance, keep them tight. Maya Javani Kachanam, as Kunti says, the curtain. It doesn't pertain to me. They're these guys. Look at just like how they're dressed. You think I'm going to get me one of those? You hear about like devotees who joined the movement, who were criticizing the devotees. Not in a million years, And then they have some trouble in their lives, or they meet a devotee, get a book, get a little prasadam, and the whole thing changes. So that's what we need to do: wake up ourselves and wake up others in Krishna consciousness as our main service. And that's what all these books are all about. I worked very hard to bring out this final edition of the Isopanisad. Why? So that it would have more impact. so that people would read it and it would, that's what the language does. So anyway, that's what's happening. And Prabhupada is wailing here. It's so each verse, there's an element of, he's obviously very aware of what's going on in the world. He talks about the communists and the capitalists here, and both of them are ignorant, and they're threatening to destroy the world. It's in 1990, the whole thing changed because the Soviet Union dissolved, and we had this illusion, the threat of the nuclear war is over. But it's not over, But I'll tell you, growing up in the 50s and 60s, it was right in front of your face. I mean, I was having nightmares when I was 6 years old that the bombs were blowing up. And then in 62, I'm sorry. 63, he was assassinated. But 62, we had the Cuban Missile Crisis. You know it by the history books. You're not that old either. But I was 14, and I was totally aware. And everyone in the world was thinking, this could be it. This is going to be it. The bombs are going to start flying in like a few days, And then the Russian ships were coming. And it was just by Krishna's grace. I know we're running out of time. The next time I give a class, we came so close to like the bombs blowing up in New York and Washington D.C. and Moscow and everywhere else, but it didn't happen. But it could still happen. All right, I went way over time. I'm sorry. I got carried away. I don't think there's any time. Do you have any really urgent question besides what's the goal of life and how can I achieve it? Go ahead.
But I got a really cool comment that you mentioned Mark Twain, and it's appropriate. Mark Twain said, "Don't let school interfere with your education." But if you're willing, but if you don't, I understand. There are innumerable suns and innumerable planetary systems also. So, Prabhupada says that the suns are stars. What is your take on our moons? What is your take on that?
It must be true. I don't know how. I've learned long ago to not worry too much about numbers. When you go through the fifth canto, and Mount Meru, is like 800 miles high or more, and it's right over I don't see it, I mean, you could easily get went out of shape with the fifth canto. But on a level that I don't understand, it's true. From our own observations, which are always giving us bad information, it doesn't seem to be true, But I decided long ago, I'm going with Prabhupada, I mean, this all came up with the fall of the jiva, and that wasn't something that I mean, that was there's whole books and acharyas who were saying, Well, we made a decision a long time ago, stay with Prabhupada. And we know my main argument was always first, well, what did Prabhupada say? What did he really believe? And they tried to bring in this idea that somehow he was telling us something he didn't believe. That didn't compute at all. I know, he wrote a whole essay about it. And the money quote is all you have to know about this issue is Prabhupada wrote specifically to address this issue and hand it out, and as his final word, is that once we were with Krishna in his lila, or sport. And as soon as you say that, it wasn't that we were up there without being fully manifest or anything. We were with Krishna in his lila, or sport. And we somehow left because of our free will. And it makes perfect sense. What's the meaning of love without free will? So we are giving Krishna our love, and most of the living entities there are doing that, and they don't stop doing it. Nityasiddha, Nityamukta. But we're the unfortunate ones, the 1/4 who decided to not give him our love and to turn away and try to love, to exploit this world. And so we've been ever since. And then we can go back home, back to Godhead. I mean, the very name of the magazine and that phrase, which I counted once, appeared over 600 times in all the books and lectures and letters and everything. For me, that's all I need, So somehow those stars out there are reflecting the light of our sun. And when I become self-realized, I'll know it for sure. I'll get some big gyan there, as far as I can go with it. I'm sorry? All right, then we'll have to end. Although You don't have to ask it now?
If you don't want to.
No, go ahead. If it's not, I hope it doesn't have a long answer. If it has too long an answer.
You were mentioning how sometimes we pray to Krishna or people pray to Krishna to cure their disease.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just wondering if it's okay if a devotee is praying to Krishna to help and heal so he can do more service. Because so is that wrong? And
well, it's best if you get other devotees to pray for you.
Yeah, I was thinking
Yeah.
of that. I know of a devotee that he was chanting for rounds and he was really sick. And then he said, "Oh, if Krishna, if you heal me, I will chant the 16 rounds." But I know that it did not. Krishna healed him, but he did not chant. He did not chant his 2 rounds, and went back to
mistake.
Basically like, "Oh, it's not important to abide to what I offered to Krishna." So, what are the consequences of that?
I don't know exactly, but it can't be good. The thing is, that's like, it reminds me of sinning on the strength of chanting, which Prabhupada said that's the worst. I'll tell you a little bit about my editing pastimes. There's a purport, I can't quote it exactly, and I don't want to look it up enough time. In the first canto, 19th chapter, which is the last chapter, where Prabhupada quotes a verse, and it's actually there in the text of the Bhagavatam. It's I think the only actual Sanskrit verse in the first canto that's quoted in full. And I memorized this verse one time, but I forgot it, of course. But what it says basically that even if you perform all kinds of sin, you can be forgiven if you generally appeal to Krishna. If you're it was a one-off thing. In other words, you're basically a devotee and like that, which he says in the Gita also, Apichetsurachara. And then at the end, after that verse, if you look on your first canto, chapter 19, I'll give you the verse after class. There's no translation. There's no explanation of it. It's just a verse. I said, that's weird. And I looked in the actual Delhi Bhagavatam one Prabhupada brought with him, and there's a whole section here of explanation. But it seemed to be the first verse somewhat redundant for what Prabhupada said before, and so we just cut it out. But there's a very important instruction in there that's not there in that severity or intensity in any other place in his books, and that is that if one intentionally performs sin with the idea that I'm going to chant Hare Krishna and that'll relieve it, it's kind of like going to church on weekend and then just going back to drinking, then one can never be delivered. In other words, no matter even if you think of Krishna a lot, you can't be delivered. You're doomed, basically. It's the strongest statement like that. I said, that's a instruction I have to excavate and bring back into the Srimad Bhagavatam. So that's the kind of thing. Trying to trick Krishna, and you always lose. It's a very bad idea. So ever.